She's real fine, my 409. She's real fine, my 409, my 409. Well, I saved my pennies and I saved my dimes.
Well, welcome back to Bumper Radio. I am Dave Riccio from Tri-City Transmission, and usually with me is Matt Allen from Virginia Auto Service, but he's in training, and I hope they keep him a long time and train him a lot. But filling in for him is John Riggle from Tri-City Transmission. He does our diagnostic work. He checks the cars in, figures them out, checks them back out, and he's pretty much the hard problem guy. So we're very fortunate to have him. So today we are helping you with your car. We've got open lines at 602-277-5827, 602-277-KTAR. And up first this segment, we are going to go with Gary in Peoria. He's got a 2004 Chrysler Town and Country with a 3.8 liter. How can we help you, Gary? You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time.
You bet.
I've got an issue. Car drives great when it's cold. I commute about 25 miles to and from work. On my way in, as the car heats up, it spits and sputters, basically bucking. It did show a check engine light, and it threw some codes. And I did some Google Gnostics, and I'm kind of stressed that it might be the flex plate possibly broken rather than a crank or cam sensor. I wanted to get your take on it. I've got the codes if that helps you. Or
yeah, what codes did you have?
It shows three of them. It's a P1684, a P0352, and a P1391. And I have replaced the cam sensor before. I've never touched the crank sensor. But some of the Google stuff says people have had an issue with the Chrysler flex plates cracking, which affects the crank sensor itself.
I would say, John, I mean, how many crank sensors have you done on Chryslers as opposed to flex plates, if you were just to kind of dig in your banks?
I've done quite a few. The flex plates do crack on them. That was not unusual during that period, but I don't usually see a difference between hot and cold. He's talking about hot and cold here. That PO352 really sticks out for me. I would be looking at the ignition coil and coil pack on that car.
Okay.
That it uses an individual coil pack and still got plug wires on it. But the coil pack would be real high on my list of things to look at, especially with the temperature change going on. So, yeah, I would kind of steer away from the flex plate. Wouldn't be high on my list.
So back to our point of the first call conversation is that we always, back to WebMD, we think the worst, chest pains, I'm having a heart attack, and I just need some Alka-Seltzer because I got indigestion. Yeah. And how many times are we doing coils in our shop?
A lot.
I mean, and especially when these things heat up, they start breaking down and performing worse. And
that's one of the clues. Yeah, it's temperature related, and so that takes you away from a mechanical failure. Mechanical failures really don't care hot or cold.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for the call, Gary. 602-277-5827. We are going to go with John in Chandler. He's got a 2006 GMC Yukon. How can we help you, John? You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Okay, so I've had this problem that I'm having. I've had two different mechanics look at it, and neither one of them could give me an answer as to the problem. What happens is when I go into to fill up with gas, the pump clicks off. Even though the tank's not full, I'll fill up maybe half a gallon, maybe 2.5 gallons, and it keeps clicking off, and I have to keep pressing it and kind of fiddle with the pump in order for it to get to pump gas. One guy blew out my gas tank, and another guy replaced there's a canister filter, I think, in a gas tank, and neither one of those things worked, and both of them said they were out of ideas at that point.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple possibilities there. The most common one is that the tank isn't venting properly for one reason or another, okay? And you already replaced the filter for the charcoal canister filter, but on occasion the charcoal canisters will actually get plugged up on the car. They'll get dirt in them. That filter is nothing more than looks like a piece of sponge. It's not a real high-quality filter. It's just to keep big pieces out of the evap system, and the canisters will get restricted on those. They're fairly easy to test for anybody that's got the right equipment. You use a flow gauge and run a flow gauge on the essentially on the evaporative emission system and make sure that the vent is open. That's the most common failure that there is. The filler necks don't usually come up with issues unless they're physically broken. You can usually see that if the little flap inside, the restrictor flap right at the top is broken. Those will go down and wedge in the filler neck. But if that's intact, it's probably on the vent side, and it's probably a charcoal canister on that car.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, sounds like you get back to the shop, and it doesn't sound like an impossible thing to fix. Just somebody with the right tools and the know-how.
We need to do a flow test on the vent system. Yep.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks for the call, John. 602-277-5827, 602-277-KTAR. Let's go with Orlando in Phoenix. He's got a 2000 Nissan Altima. How can we help you? You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Yes, I'm currently going to do an engine replacement on my 2000 Nissan Altima, and I purchased a 2.4 Ka2DE, and the engine looks a little bit different. It's from a second gen. I was wondering, would the block be the same if I was to install it in my Altima?
I would suggest not doing that. You're going to run into a lot more things than just the block being different. That is going to be a swap that's going to be a little tough.
Yeah, I think, and we've run into situations where we want to do a used transmission for somebody or a used engine for somebody, and it shows up and it's a little bit different. And we're like, well, it looks really close, and the salvage yard has notes that we bought it from, and they say all these things will work, and you put it all in there. Turns out there's one spot that's missing where a sensor needs to go, and it's a nightmare. So if you're going to do a motor swap on the modern vehicle, it is like for like. There's no, hey, we'll shoehorn this one in there and make it work. I mean,
absolutely.
It's got everything is so integrated, and from one generation to the next, they'll change something. Specifically, I don't know enough about the Nissan brand to know that. When I have Nissan questions, I call Joel over at Arizona Imports because he worked at the Nissan dealership for years, and he helps me out with that stuff. So you can find him, Joel at Arizona Import Specialist. Anyhow, we're going to go with Charlie in Payson. He's got a 76 International Scout. We got to go a little bit quick, Charlie, because we're coming up on a break. How can we help you? You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Okay, thank you, and I'm so glad you're not the Tappet brothers on Click and Clack. This 76 Scout, it's a 345 V8 with a 727 torque flight, automatic. It goes great forward, but it won't back up. It's like neutral in reverse.
I'm thinking if you don't go backwards, Charlie, you're just fine.
Yeah, really.
Just park in a way that you don't need to go backwards. But that 727 torque flight has been around forever, and I do believe there's a reverse band in that transmission, and we may just have a band that has failed. There's no quick fixes or patches for it. It's something where the transmission is going to need to come out of the vehicle to be repaired to get to that band. On the older transmissions before electronics or any of that stuff, reverse was mechanical. So if a car was missing reverse, something physically broke.
Yeah.
And, we don't have, if you would have said, hey, in the morning it takes a little while to go forward and then backwards is an issue, I would say, okay, maybe we're dealing with a hard seal issue. The seals in the transmission are starting to get hard, especially with cold weather. But the fact that forward works great and reverse doesn't, I think we just got a band that has failed. And, John, 727, those weren't all the cars you worked on back in what year did you start?
Oh, come on, man. 1978, yes.
1978. Yeah. It's funny just to think about how much the cars have changed, because when he tells me about what his job was to do there, it was to go start all the cars in the morning before people showed up to test drive the cars.
Yeah.
He worked at, what's the name of the Dodge dealer?
Valley Dodge.
Valley Dodge, because the chokes in those cars didn't work.
Yep.
And if you think about cars, I mean, every time you get in the car and you turn the key, the thing goes boom and it works just fine.
Yeah.
But in the old days, I remember my first car, 84 Jeep. I had to, it was tricky to get that thing going in the morning.
Oh yeah.
And it had a carburetor that had solenoids on it, and that deal never even worked. That thing was such a joke. So anyhow, there's all kinds of fun stuff when it comes to fixing your car, and the rules have really changed. So the point here at Bumper to Bumper Radio is to kind of keep you in the loop so you know enough to stay out of trouble because you can spend a lot of money wrong. Your first big investment is your house. Your second big investment is your car. And you can drive fancy new ones, but I can't afford a fancy new one all the time. So I gotta make the one I drive work. Anyhow, when we come back, we're taking more phone calls at 602-277-5827, 602-277-KTAR. You're listening to Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Hi, Lisa Henry with Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty. Have you been thinking maybe the time is right to move, but you're not sure if you have enough equity in your home or if it really is a good time? Well, home values have increased significantly over the past few years, and interest rates are still historically low. For how long? No one knows. But for every 1% increase in the interest rate, the result is about a 10% loss in purchasing power. So it might be a really great time to sell your home and either upsize or downsize to a new home while the interest rates are still low. Contact me via my website at lisareneehenry.com or direct at 480-330-9530 for a no-obligation market valuation on your home and to hear about our global online marketing plan designed to sell your home quickly for top dollar. Again, that's lisareneehenry.com, 480-330-9530. Come experience the difference a truly customer-focused real estate agent can make.
Golf fans, it's time to celebrate. This is big, and we mean really big. Come join Bunker to Bunker, the golf show, live on Saturday, January 14th from the grand opening of the new PGA Tour Superstore in Glendale, just east of the 101 on the northeast corner of Bell and 75th Avenue. Doors open at 9 a.m. with more than $30,000 worth of free stuff being given away to the first customers who visit. Be first in line to win Callaway irons, tailor-made drivers, rangefinders, apparel, cash cards, and much more.
Trust. It's hard to earn and sometimes even harder to find. If you live or work in downtown Phoenix, Matt Allen's Virginia Auto Service is celebrating over 20 years of award-winning service at the corner of 7th Street and Virginia. Recognized as one of the best service shops in the country, their customers have come to trust Virginia Auto Service for its A-plus rating by the BBB, 2-year 24,000-mile warranties, and free transportation to and from your home or office. 20-plus years of earning your trust. Virginia Auto Service. They're serious about service.
Arizona's news station. KTAR. On air, 92.3 FM. Online at KTAR.com. And streaming live on the KTAR News app. Your breaking news and traffic. Now.
KTAR News Time is 11:30. I'm Sharon Middleman. Protesters are braving the snow and rain in D.C. today, just ahead of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. After marching down Independence Avenue, demonstrators rallied in the park near the MLK Memorial. Reverend Al Sharpton is saying the protest is about celebrating Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream and preserving President Obama's legacy.
You may switch presidents, but we just gonna switch legs and keep on marching. We won't back down. We won't be trumped.
The next wave of nominees to Donald Trump's cabinet is getting ready to go before Congress. ABC's Mary Bruce is in Washington with a preview of next week's confirmation hearings.
So far, 6 nominees have been grilled on Capitol Hill. 7 more will be in the hot seat next week, including Betsy DeVos, his pick for Education Secretary, Wilbur Ross for Commerce, and Tom Price will also be back on the Hill, Trump's pick for HHS.
President Barack Obama says every American holds the title of citizen despite their many differences. In the final radio and Internet address of his presidency, Obama says being president has been his life's honor. And let's get a check on traffic now in the RMEGold.com traffic center. Here's Mike Daniels.
Well, thanks, Sharon. We got a crash on the on-ramp, State Route 51 southbound at Northern, and a wreck at 7th Street and Baseline to watch out for. This report brought to you by the PGA Superstore. Shop like a pro at the new PGA Tour Superstore in Glendale, located at the northeast corner of 75th Avenue in Bell, where you can find the best deals on the largest selection of golf and tennis equipment, apparel, and footwear. I'm Mike Daniels, KTAR News.
KTAR weather for the Valley. Thunderstorms this afternoon with a high of 68. Right now in Phoenix, it's 62 degrees. Weather brought to you by Howard Air. Weather replace or repair, call Howard Air. I'm Sharon Middleman on Arizona's news station, KTAR News.
Arizona, an amazing state for outdoor recreation and exploration. Full of mountains, lakes, streams, forests, and of course, our beautiful deserts. Hunting, fishing, camping. If it's about the outdoors, we've got it covered. KTAR invites you to Get Outdoors with Mike Russell today at noon. KTAR News on 92.3 FM and on every device with the KTAR app.
Hi, I'm Roger Bland with the Automatic Transmission Rebuilders Association, ATRA. As a transmission industry advocate, I travel throughout North America, studying transmission shops, looking for the best of the best that our industry has to offer. Professionally, ethically run shops that are proud to display the ATRA logo. I was recently in Arizona because I had heard from more than one source that I had to check out Tri-City Transmission right here in Tempe. Folks, I've been in the transmission industry for over 25 years, and I'm here to tell you that Tri-City is the type of transmission shop we're proud to call an ATRA member. Not only does Tri-City Transmission meet the stringent code of ethics set forth for every member of the association, they also have an extraordinary approach to solving their customers' problems. You see, they don't just focus on what it is they produce, transmissions. Their true concern is about fixing your problem. And take it from me, that's a big difference.
To learn more about Tri-City Transmission, find them at tricitytransmission.com. That's tricitytransmission.com.
The Waste Management Phoenix Open, presented by the Octin Indian community, is a golf tournament like no other. Huge crowds, enthusiastic fans, exciting golf. It's truly the People's Open. Please enjoy the tournament and have fun. Remember, be safe, act responsibly, and behave with class. Let's show the world that we have the greatest fans in golf. Respect the fans, respect the players, respect the game at the 2017 Waste Management Phoenix Open, January 30th through February 5th at TPC Scottsdale.
There's nothing more important than family. Hi, Kurt Rock for Kurt's Auto Repair. Family owned and operated and bumper-to-bumper radio preferred. We've been taking care of Valley families and their auto care needs with a perfect Better Business record for over 27 years. Come experience the difference our ASE Master Techs can make for you and your family at Kurt's Auto Repair. Just east of I-17 at 22nd Avenue and Bell Road, or online at mycarhurts.com. Gas or diesel, foreign or domestic. If your car hurts, take it to Kurt's.
My father spent 3 years restoring this car. It is his love. It is his passion. It is his fault he didn't lock the garage. Ferris, what are you talking about?
No! Ferris, forget it. You're just gonna have to think of something else. I'm putting my foot down. How about we run a nice Cadillac? My treat.
You know, when I watched that originally as a kid over and over and over again, you had to put in the VHS tape. You know, you couldn't just go to YouTube and watch that.
Yeah.
But I thought it was appropriate because, you know, Barrett Jackson's going on all week.
That's right. Yeah.
It's Barrett Jackson week, so if you're that motorhead who's going to go spend a lot of money on an expensive car, Barrett Jackson, if you haven't been, is a very, very, very cool thing. And I'm not going to make it this year, but I know that Matt is going to be out there. And Matt Allen, welcome back to Bumper Radio. I'm Dave Riccio. Matt Allen is out today. He's in training. I give him a hard time, but he is always doing something to better himself in business, and I really appreciate that about Matt.
It's a good thing.
So he's trying to do a good job for his customers. He's at Virginia Auto Service, which is up Central Phoenix off of roughly Thomas and 7th Street. You know, but it's actually Virginia. That's why it's Virginia Auto Service. How did that happen? Wow. Impressive.
Virginia Auto Service. They're serious about service.
Yeah, it sounds like you did a commercial for them. No.
Yeah, that's their spot. I just happened to voice it, that's all.
Okay. Well, thank you, Bree. So anyway, Matt is not with us, but we've got John Riggle, and John works at Tri-City Transmission, and he does our diagnostic work there. John has got 39 years of experience now, probably. Yeah. Diagnosing cars, so he's here to help me with your car. And then you can also find not only Tri-City Transmission, but a list of good shops at bumpertobumperradio.com. These are shops that if you're a consumer, we talk about not being an orphan customer. So one of the best ways to not be your worst enemy at auto repair is to find a good shop that you trust, that you feel is competent, and just stick with them. Yeah. Don't chase the coupon shop to shop to shop to shop. You want to find a good shop, and if you've got a good shop, you don't need to go to bumpertobumperradio.com. But if you don't, you do need to go there. Yep. And you do need to pick a home and maybe just go in for an oil change and get a feel for the place. But these are shops that are independently owned, where the owner's on staff. And what I like about that is that if there's a problem, you don't have to go to the manager's manager's manager and keep leaving voicemails for the next person in the chain to call you back. And when they call you back, you got to explain the whole situation to them, who's then got to call you back. It's really nice when the owner's right there can just say, let me just take care of it. If something goes wrong, and not that anything ever goes wrong in auto repair, maybe once or twice, but you want to be a good shop. You can find that at bumpertobumperradio.com. Well, we've got Steven, we've got Adam, we've got Bruce, and we've got Laura. And I think we're going to take Deborah in Phoenix. She's got a 2005 Kia Sorento. How can we help you, Deborah? You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Hi, how's everybody doing today?
Fantastic.
Great. I have, for the past, I'd say 4 or 5 months, hearing a noise that when I put my car in reverse, it makes a loud clunk, and it's getting louder.
A loud clunk in reverse. Just when you go in reverse?
In reverse. When I put it in park, I hear it a little bit, but mainly in reverse.
Okay. This is just a guess, and it's probably a fairly good educated guess. But when you go into the auto shop, and I think you need to do that, you're going to want to get the guy that's either working on the car or the guy who's going to communicate with the technician. Yeah. And you're going to go sit in the car with him, and you're going to say, this is the clunk that I feel. This is what I'm feeling in the car. And one of the things that's fairly common is engine mounts. Yeah. And that's the first thing that came to mind for me. So
same here. Yeah.
And the way we test for that is, we're going to feel it. We know what they feel like in our butt kind of has a memory for sensations and feelings in cars, because we see, we'll get in a car, we'll jump in, and we'll hear a noise, we'll go, oh, that's a U-joint, or we'll jump in and we go, oh, that's a motor mount. So someone who's been doing it a long time, they're gonna pick up on that easily. There's some other things it could be, but most commonly motor mounts is kind of the top of my list. But you're not going to go into the shop and tell them you got a bad motor mount, because that would go against everything we told you in the first segment. So you're going to go in there and say, I've got a clunk in my car, can I show you?
Yep.
And then they're gonna go ahead and take your symptom, and they're gonna diagnose your problem. So I think that'll be a fairly easy one to find. So thanks so much for giving us a call. We are going to go with Laura in Tempe. She has a 01 Subaru Legacy. How can we help you, Laura? You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call. It's actually a 2011 Legacy.
Okay, cool. That makes a big difference.
And I'm having a intermittent problem, so which is a problem in itself. I can't always locate, but I think it's when I'm driving at slower speeds and kind of stop and go. I feel like it's a transmission issue. I feel like it's kind of jerking a little bit, and then when I go to accelerate, it kind of knocks a little bit, like someone's kind of rear-ended me a little bit with a tab, not a heavy one, but I brought it to the dealer because I'm under warranty, and they reset the computer memory, he said.
Sure.
And now it's worse.
Mm-hmm. Do you notice that it seems to happen more after the car's been driven for a while, after it's warm, or does it tend to be something that happens more when the car's cold in the morning?
Trying to jot down when I'm feeling it, and it's kind of both. If I'm on like the freeway, going, just steady, and then I need to accelerate or slow down and then re-accelerate, I feel it. But then in the morning when it's cold, I feel it as well.
If you were to
but
pick,
it's not all the time.
If you were to pick a speed, what speeds is it? From 0 to 10 miles an hour, from 10 to 20, from 20 to 30? Those are some of the questions that we ask to really hone into it. What speed range would you feel it?
I'm going to say probably 20 to 30.
20 to 30 miles an hour. Okay, well, it's a little hard to digest a transmission problem like that on air, but what's happening and what the dealership did for you is that these cars are very complex. 2011 is much different than a 2001 in that they're adaptive. So what they do is they not only learn driver habits, but they also learn the way the transmission is wearing. Mm-hmm. So as things wear out, the computer is going to compensate for that wear. And so they call that adaptation. So when we reset the computer, what we're doing is we're going to clear the adapts. Excuse me, I can't talk today. Woo! So So what they do is they clear the adapts, and if it develops the same bad habit, we may start to be having something that's wearing out inside the transmission.
Mm-hmm.
And John, where you were going with, was it a hot problem or a cold problem, is one of the common things that we get all the time is valve body repairs.
Exactly.
And they really exacerbate when the vehicle is warmed up. They'll work great when they're cold, but as it warms up, you start to have all these issues. That's a typical of a valve body problem. So something like that, it sounds like the clearing the adapts was a good first step for the dealer, but you're going to need to follow up with them and say, it's right back. So anyhow, thanks so much for the call, 602-277-5827. We're going to go with Steve in Phoenix. He's got a 2011 Kia Sorento. How can we help you, Steve? You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Oh, good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for taking the call. I also have an intermediate problem. 2011 Kia Sorento EX V6. It's got the push button start, and I'm just guessing every maybe 15 starts, any weather, it's got an over crank issue where it's excessively cranking, but it always starts, but it might take 4 seconds versus the 1 to 1.5 seconds.
And I think you might have said this at the beginning, what you were saying. Does that happen after the vehicle's been sitting for a long time, or does it happen, you said it doesn't happen all the time. Is there certain times you see it more than others?
No, I've been driving the vehicle today, but it's been almost 8 months, and if I start it in the morning, occasionally it'll start, it'll overcrank. Other times it's fine. The conditions don't matter if I've been driving it all day or 10 minutes. Usually every 10 to 15 pushes of the button starting the vehicle.
How many miles are on the car?
60,000.
60,000? Okay.
It's just out of warranty, maybe 8 months.
Sure.
Well, I think, when it starts, you say it's taken a long time. You actually hear that starter motor running, or is it just the delay as far as...
Yeah, I'll hear the cranking of the engine, crank. And then what I've done, a suggestion from a friend, he said let off the brake, and then what'll happen is the engine will die after, it'll discontinue trying to start, then put your foot on the brake and push the button and it starts right up.
Yeah. I've got just a hunch on that. That's one you really have to diagnose, but I've got a hunch on those. Those had real common problems with what they call a canister purge solenoid. And the canister purge solenoid helps vent the fuel vapors out of the gas tank. And when they fail, they stick open when they shouldn't be. And they shouldn't be open when we're cranking the car. So if it's open when we're cranking the car, we draw raw fuel vapors out of the gas tank, make the fuel mixture too rich, and the car doesn't want to start. And if you try it a couple of times, eventually it'll start. And it's real common on the Kias. But it's something that somebody needs to diagnose.
So, fantastic.
It's time for Fact or Fiction.
All right, Fact or Fiction. This Fact or Fiction, we've got Earl sitting here who does some of our service writing at Tri-City Transmission, and Jason, who's, we call him Deep Dish because he's from Chicago. He's sitting here as well. But this was Earl's idea for a Fact or Fiction, and I'll throw it out there. It's a good idea if you think you're having a transmission problem to service the transmission. So I'll ask you, John, you're staring at me.
No. Transmission service doesn't fix problems. That's a maintenance procedure designed to keep a good working transmission working well. It doesn't fix anything. And the worst part for us is after they've been serviced, a big portion of the evidence that I use to diagnose what's going on with it is now gone. So, yeah, that's low on my list.
This happens to us 10 times a day, every day. Either people call and they say, hey, my car is acting silly, the transmission I think is having problems, so I want a service. How much for a service? We say, whoa, slow your roll, pump the brakes.
Yeah.
So that's one. And then the number two is they were at their auto shop, and their auto shop, like most auto shops, don't really know what's going on inside the transmission, and the customer has a complaint about transmission. They go, well, let's just try and service it, see if that helps.
Yeah.
If that doesn't help, go to the transmission shop. Well, they got rid of the evidence, and it didn't fix anything, and so they just took $300 and threw it at something, wasted money on it, and then they brought it to us, and they just made it an extra step. So if you think you're having a transmission problem, Earl said he's seen a car pull into the bay, get a transmission service, and never back out.
Yep.
So if you're having a transmission problem,
also,
you don't want to take a car that has a simple problem and make it much worse by just throwing fuel on the fire. So anyhow, when we come back, we're taking phone calls at 602-277-5827. You listen to Bumper to Bumper Radio.
It sounds like they've just had the accurate automotive experience. We're family-owned and operated and have served the Mesa, Tempe, Gilbert communities for over 22 years. We focus on building long-lasting relationships and, listening to you so that we can understand, meet, and exceed your expectations. One location, 14 bays, 88 years of automotive expertise, and a passionate commitment to customer service and excellence. My name is Lee Weatherby, and I approve this message because it's true. We love what we do, and we want to do it for you. Accurate Automotive, the home of friends serving friends.
Matt and I share car repair tips weekly to help you keep your car safely on the road, and a few of them are easy to do.
Yep, you're right, Dave. And one of the easiest is to have a dependable battery that you can trust to get you started no matter what the conditions.
Interstate batteries are what we trust at Bumper to Bumper Radio. In fact, they're what we use at our own shops for our customers.
If you're like most people, your car is one of your most valuable investments. Make sure you take care of that investment with the power necessary to get you where you need to be. Interstate batteries are America's #1 replacement brand with the factory fresh guarantee, and they're easy to find at good shops everywhere.
Cars or trucks, Interstate has you covered with long life and performance in our harsh desert climates with products like Megatron Plus. It carries a 30-month free replacement and a 6-year performance guarantee.
Interstate batteries. No battery lasts longer. Check them out at interstatebatteries.com.
Sometimes even harder to find. If you live or work in downtown Phoenix, Matt Allen's Virginia Auto Service is celebrating over 20 years of award-winning service at the corner of 7th Street and Virginia. Recognized as one of the best service shops in the country, their customers have come to trust Virginia Auto Service for its A+ rating by the BBB, 2-year 24,000-mile warranties, and free transportation to and from your home or office. 20+ years of earning your trust. Virginia Auto Service. They're serious about service.
Who can you trust here in the Valley to repair your ride? This is Bumper to Bumper Radio. KTAR News on 92.3 FM.
Well, welcome back to Bumper Radio. I am Dave Riccio. Matt Allen with Virginia Auto Service is off today, so we've got John Riggle from Tri-City Transmission in with me to help you with your car. And we're taking your phone calls at 602-277-5827. And we're going to get right to the phones. We've got Bruce. Man, today feels like Kia Day. Bruce in Glendale. He's got an 05 Kia. How can we help you, Bruce? You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Hey, Dave. Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Yeah, it does sound like a Kia Day. I've got an 06 Kia Sorento, and my door actuators, it sounds like a machine gun going off. All the doors are chattering.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a way to isolate which one it is? Because I heard if one goes, it affects them all, and they're talking a lot of money.
No. They're all separate units. What happens is they do start to fail at about the same rate at about the same time, so you can wind up with multiples. But it's usually just a matter of listening to them. You can have somebody push the button, and you can actually feel them rattle in the door. If you put your hand on the outside of the door, you can feel those actuators rattle, and it's real common. And you may have more than one. It may be one or two or three or all of them, but yeah, it doesn't. If you got one bad, it's not going to cause the other ones to go bad.
You know, I just say quit locking your doors, you'll be fine. The other gentleman just needed a park where he didn't have to go in reverse, and he just needs to quit locking his doors. But what he's talking about is door lock actuators. That's the little electric motor inside your door that makes that door lock and unlock. So it's actually pretty common among all vehicles with those things.
Yeah, all the later stuff does it.
They go bad. So thanks for the call, Bruce. We are going to go with... Dennis in Phoenix, 05 Trailblazer. How can we help you, Dennis? You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Hey, how you doing, fellas? Hey, thanks for taking my call. This will be the second time I've actually called in with this same problem, but I thought maybe since you have a transmission place on, maybe it would be a, I don't know, a better answer or something. Maybe you could answer because I couldn't figure it out.
Sure.
So anyway, I have an 05 Trailblazer that has two codes. One is the throttle position sensor, and then the other one is the gas pedal actuator sensor or something of that nature. And I can't replace the sensor on my throttle body because it's all one unit. So now I've put a new throttle body on it.
Mm-hmm.
And now the only thing I have left to do is obviously the gas pedal sensor. But my question is do you think that if I replace that, it's going to fix the problem? Oh, I'm sorry. The problem is it goes into limp mode. I'll be driving along, and all of a sudden the transmission, I'm assuming, would make the motor go into limp mode to where I can go 20, 25 mile an hour to get off the freeway.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think John really knows what's going on right off the bat.
It's not the transmission doing it. It's what the system is doing is detecting a problem with the throttle-by-wire system. And any time we detect a problem with the throttle-by-wire system, we don't want it to run away or do anything like that. So we'll put it into some form of limp-in. And the very first step that they do is called limited operation strategy, where they just give you a loss of power is all you'll feel out of it. And this is just simply closing the throttle on you. But you've got two pieces. You've got a throttle position sensor, and that you've got a pedal position sensor. And either one of those are high failure rates on that car. But we also see situations where the wiring harnesses, the terminals on either end, actually break inside of the insulation. You'll break the wiring out by the throttle body, so you can't just guess at that one. That's one that actually needs to be tested, and you need to have somebody shake down the harness real well and make sure that the harness is intact before you go throwing any more money at parts you don't really need for it.
He bought the most expensive piece first.
Yeah,
he bought the throttle body.
Yeah,
you know, if you're gonna pitch a dart, pitch a cheap one.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes that's a good idea, but yeah. So it's very redundant, and we've heard about cars driving away. You know, there was some recalls back in the day, but one of the manufacturers.
Acceleration, yeah.
And we don't want that to happen. So that thing is very redundant. So it's looking at the electrical signal of the throttle body on the motor and then the pedal position.
Yeah.
And if those things don't jive, it immediately. I mean, quickly.
It's super sensitive, so they don't get runaways with them. Yeah,
for sure. Thanks so much for the call, Dennis. We are going to go with Rosemond. I think I'm reading that right, in Phoenix on a 93 Buick Roadmaster. How can we help you? You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Good morning, gentlemen. First and foremost, I put in all 4 new shock absorbers maybe about 6 to 8 months ago, and at this point in time, every time I go down the road, it just squeaks and it's just a bad squeaking sound. I would like to know possibly what it is.
Okay, is it kind of like that old squeaky kind of mattress kind of sound?
Squeak, squeak. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. The real common, I mean, the shocks are really going to help. I mean, the car rides on springs, and you wouldn't want it to go boing, boing, boing down the road. So the shocks are gonna control the bounce that you get when over a bump. Okay. However, everything in that suspension has got a rubber bushing now that is over 20 years old. Yeah. And those rubber bushings are going to squeak. And a quick way to diagnose that, what we would do in the shop is we'd spray a little silicone oil on there just to see if that noise goes away, to isolate which bushing is making the most noise and start with that. But, you know, I get in cars that aren't even that old, 2-3 years old, and first thing in the morning they got the squeaks. And some of that we just turn the radio up and call it good, as long as those bushings are intact and they're solid and they're not a safety issue.
Yeah.
If they're dried out enough where they're starting to break apart, then they need to be changed so that it goes away.
Right.
So we're going to try and sneak in real quick an 07 Ford Focus. Let me see here if I get this right. Steve, you're on Bumper to Bumper Radio. How can we help you quickly?
Yeah, this is Steve, and thank you for taking my call. It's actually a 07 Ford Fusion. I have a misfire on cylinder 7. Replace the coils or change the coils out, replace the plugs, and continual misfire on 6. Somebody told me I probably have a bad ECM because that's a common problem with the Ford Fusion.
Okay.
Just looking for a little bit of help, I guess, on that.
We did have a situation. I don't think it was a Ford Fusion, but that was a different Ford model. And what it was one of the ECM was keeping the coil on, wasn't it?
Oh yeah,
And it was burning that coil out.
Yep.
But that was a repeat failure of the same coil, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So one of the things about coil failures, they are fairly common. We get cars in and we see, oh yeah, we got one coil bad. Well, we all want to keep it on the cheap for the customer so they don't have to spend too much money. You can either spend money buying these things a la carte and going back to the auto shop and paying a diagnostic fee and being inconvenienced, or you can bite the bullet and just buy all the coils.
Right.
Coils and plugs, do it all at once because it's such a common failure point anymore. I don't think you mess around with just doing them a la carte because it's just not worth it. And people don't realize when you develop these misfires, it's hard on the transmission. We got a truck in our shop where the guy's got a misfire, and sure enough, the transmission's broken. So anyhow, thanks for joining us. Thanks, Bree, for running the dials. If you're a car buff, it's not too late to sneak out, get some tickets for Barrett Jackson, and go see what's going on down there. It's always fun to see what kind of people live in your community, too, because I'm just a total people watcher. Anyhow, we will see you next week.